Welcome to Your Nonprofit Power. I'm Amy Fazio, and we love talking about everything nonprofit growth. We help nonprofit leaders like you take your mission from the hustle phase all the way to becoming a fearless fundraiser. Today's guest, Tamara Mon Louis from Monovan Digital, is here to talk to us about an important key step of the Magnify Your Mission system, community building. We know it takes an army of supporters to make your big vision happen. So we wanted to get real about what digital community building has to do with building a flawless foundation for that sustainable growth without the burnout. We got to help our nonprofit pros stay healthy out there, and digital community building is a big part of it. So join me welcoming Tamara to the set.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello. So excited to be here, Amy. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Listen, I have the greatest job. I love the podcast. We're going to get into all of this, of course, but it's because I get to hang out with my friends and bring them on. And we have a good time talking about, quite frankly, a lot of what we talk about offline, which
Exactly.
is, right? How do we work with amazing people to make this world better? And I've been working, gosh, Tamara, I was thinking we've been working together for a couple of years now.
We have been, right? We started that slow grind. You came on my show. We talked. We've built a true friendship, and our businesses are now completely aligned, which I really love. And it's just been such a great growth period. It's been, I think, in 2020, right, is when we kind of hit the ground running in Clubhouse. The COVID experience.
We made connection in the digital world, and I value Tamara and her team as being a critical component of my team in my effort of building our digital community here at Magnify Your Mission. So I'm excited to brag on us a little bit, show you off a little bit. But you've been in our community so many times. You come and work with my clients in the mastermind, and really helping understand and embrace digital relationship building, because that's what this really is, right?
It is. So firstly, just the nonprofit space, that's just a passion for me, right? It's, one of my first jobs, I always mention it was at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital when I stepped into digital. So I got to understand fundraising and digital in one of the biggest, most explosive environments. And it made sense, right, for how you connected to the mission. So it's definitely something that's really important to me. And all of it was about community building through digital. And, we understand at Monovan Digital that community building, digital in general, can be daunting, right? There's so many things that you have to consider. But it's always changing, right? But as you're scaling and growing your nonprofit, this is where you kind of step in and you say, hey, what can digital do for me, and where are the opportunities, and what do I need to do to make sure I have all the right pieces to get my message across and to bring people in, because that's really what you guys do. You guys bring people in. So now you're just saying, let's bring them in online and start cultivating them.
Yeah, it is. It's growing your audience and then engaging them. And those are two different parts of the continuum of fundraising ultimately, right? Is you need to make better friends with the people in your world and be bringing in new people when you're ready. But it's all about having a strong foundation. And I love that you have this St. Jude experience, because I've been fundraising a long time, but I got to admit, I was like, whoa, like I want insight into how that operation works, because I think we can all say the resources and the savviness of an organization of that magnitude is something, even at the $100,000 level, at the $1 million level, organizations can be learning about that infrastructure. We use that word a lot, right? That digital infrastructure.
Yeah, I think that's important. So they very early on hired a whole team to focus in on it, because they saw such value, and they saw more donations, right? So that's really what drew them to that. So that opportunity to, you guys are already doing the work, right? So fundraisers and non-for-profits are already doing a lot of that work already of community building. So you guys are actually, when you start doing digital, you're better at because you understand the customer journey. You understand you have this mission that you're attached to that people can really buy into. So there's so many great things that you already do offline. Once you start transitioning it to online, it's magical because you get to push this message further by using some of the things that, I know you hear all the buzzwords, social selling, social media, SEO, all those things, but are those the things you need to worry about? Or is it that you need to consider, hey, how do I get more and how do I push this message out further with digital, right? Getting it done is where you really need to say, I need an expert for this. That's where with your business, you need to kind of say, figure it out and be like, where do I need the experts? Because that's what we do as we're scaling our businesses.
Yeah, and I hope that we're coming in okay. Let us know if you can hear us okay, if you're joining us live or on the replay. We're here with Tamara talking about digital community building, which is the foundation to fearless fundraising. It's a key step in the Magnify Your Mission system. I often say that it's a digital first approach to community building, meaning it doesn't mean that you're replacing your community engagement, your in-person on the ground efforts, but you are taking it by the horns with a digital first approach. And what I really love about it is it gives you that permission to grow, like you're saying, because otherwise, Tamara, this is my concern. Without nonprofits embracing this and learning how to do it, we're never going to break this pattern of burnout. Because without a digital first approach, there is no way to increase your footprint without you simply having more of you, more hours, or more of your time. Can you talk to that a little bit about how you see leaders shift once they really embrace a digital first approach?
Absolutely. So they shift once. So all right. So let's consider where do people start if they are searching for something, if they're looking for something? What happens when you're alone at night with your telephone or with your computer? You don't need someone there you're not on the ground at that point in time. You're probably asleep, but that person who you are looking to be a donor is in a space where they're like, let me go down a rabbit hole. How many rabbit holes have you all gone down, right? When you're looking for something. And so they start. So what you want to do is now you want to start as they're going down through these rabbit holes. They may come in from a place, hey, looking for a charity to donate to. Let's just say that's the keyword they put in, right? And let's say your business pops up. The first thing they want to see is, who is this person and who is running this nonprofit? Why are they doing this? What's the meaning behind this? This is where you get to deliver that compelling message, but you're asleep, right? Because your website is working for you and giving that message. And then as this person continues to binge, because we are now in a bingeable society, that's what we've learned to do, right? Netflix gave us the binge. Now they're reining it back in, but we still binge online, right? We're like, where's this? Oh, I like YouTube. Oh, there's a YouTube video. Oh, there's this. And that person spends time binging and getting to know more about you while you're in bed. And so that's really the opportunity, right? Those opportunities are for the people that are searching for your what you do, but not necessarily for you and stumbling into you, because that's how we run into things online all the time, right?
Listen, this is what I say about fundraising in general. When you're mapping out the funding landscape, it's not always about chasing that particular dollar. It's about understanding where the money is moving. And like I like to say, putting yourself smack dab in the middle of the way of it, right? And so that you're not chasing, but you're ready for the right opportunity. So if it's government funding, you're looking at who you're partnering with. So you're predicting, you're projecting. And so same thing, you're understanding who those donors might be and you're getting in their space so that they can find you. That's the best shot at starting the relationship.
That's the best shot at starting the relationship. Now they find you through search, or maybe you're hanging out in a space in LinkedIn where they are and you're sharing information. You're sharing. Recently, we just did a show where we talked about LinkedIn and some of the analytics that we're seeing on LinkedIn. So PDFs, for instance, on LinkedIn are doing really well when people post PDFs. So this is where you get to be in that space, share some information. PDFs are doing well. Someone downloads that. Where are you leading them to continue to learn more about you, learn more about your business? And our online presence has to become a fundraiser for us, right? So how do you turn that online presence into a someone? It's an employee, right? It's basically your entire online presence. They're employees. LinkedIn's an employee for you, Facebook, your website. So it's supposed to be working for you to draw more people into believing into this mission, believing into your brand, believing in you. Because that's the other thing now, right? In digital, people want to see you, they want to hear from you. One of the reasons you're doing this show, Amy, is because you are now positioning yourself as an expert. People get to see you, they get to connect with you. You bring on your friends, they get to see who you interact with. So they get to see you in your rawest form while you're giving them really valuable information. When they're thinking about leaning into scaling their non-for-profit and fundraising, they're like, who's top of mind? Amy. Because you show up all the time in the spaces that you need to show up. And so really that's you're really extending the mission online. And as we were talking before we got here, it's 2023, right? So we're at the point where you really cannot have a 1980 online experience. Recently I went to a website. I was telling you that as I logged on to the website, it wasn't mobile friendly on my phone. And I was just like, I don't know if the food is good here. Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And then the online presence also becomes really effective in a live situation. So when you're on the ground with people, this is where you get the engagement, the momentum building, because you can really incorporate the offline experience to online. Where's your landing page? Where are you pushing them to after you meet a bunch of people, they're interested? Where do you send them to binge the information? You have 10 minutes with them. They feel your energy, but how do you continue that feeling and giving them that opportunity?
I got to jump in here because you're just speaking to my soul right now, Tamara. I was working with a client this week, and we're learning how to set up meetings, and we always talk about the thank you here, but even how you set up your meetings, you are starting to build your credibility and authority. It sounds ridiculous, but if you're confusing, if you're all over the place, if you're high maintenance, you're starting to help them understand who you are. So you want to keep it simple. The other thing I see a lot of nonprofits do, and I'm working with a couple clients in particular right now on this in the government space, is they think getting the meeting or that face-to-face is the end all be all. But if you think about it, and then the meeting, in that case, then the meetings are always super long. It's like an hour and 20-minute meeting because we get the feeling this is it. We're either going to build the relationship or we're not. But at the end of every meeting, I'm always like, how do we stay in touch? Like, how do we keep this? What do we do next in the relationship, right?
Right.
And that's where I think digital really is, how in-person and digital work together as well.
Absolutely.
For me, it helps me close the loops. I feel like I'm a better leader because when people come in my space, thanks to you and your team, I feel confident that if I don't have the capacity that day or that week to make them feel like they're the most amazing, special person in the world, I got a system behind me that at least keeps them, hey, I'd love for you to check this out, or maybe this resource would be helpful for you. And you've helped me build that out through email sequences, by looking at the copy on my website and the podcast. And one of my favorite tools, these are the highlights of things Tamara helped me with: the podcast, the website, the emails, the quiz. Right? The quiz, what type of fundraiser are you? You and I hold up on the phone for hours, brainstorming and working that out. And it's such a great resource. I love sharing with my community.
Absolutely. And so what you've created is you really understand your customer. You are now in a space where you're like, these are my target audiences, right? They take the quiz, I have them take the quiz first. As they take the quiz, you understand more about them. So you can definitely communicate with them more effectively because they fall into a specific segment or bucket. They're telling you, I took this quiz and this is the information that I want to hear from you, because they're giving you their email address. This quiz made them feel so inspired, right? And the quiz is maybe 80% about them and 20% about you, because you get information information, but you get some key things that say, all right, these are my buckets. And then you get to start talking to people through those buckets. What's the message that resonates with them? So when they get these emails in their inbox, they're now like, man, oh my goodness, this is important to me. Now, talk about the reaction after someone has taken the quiz, and when they fall into one of these three buckets, are they like, oh my God, this is exactly who I am?
That's what's so cool about it. First of all, it was so therapeutic in the sense it was 25 years of listening to people in the
Right.
nonprofit world to then say, I know these people. I know who the hustler is. I've been that person. I know the serial entrepreneur, always making the deals to grow, adding new programs, gets a little addicted to the busy work though, right? And then the fearless fundraiser who really owns and understands their power. What I love about that process is the feedback I've heard, and I'd love to hear from people online, is even by taking the quiz, they gain insight into where they need to focus to grow, whether they work with me or not. And that makes me feel amazing.
So right away, you're giving them something. You're building trust because you're saying, take my quiz and here's who you are. And let me give you a little bit of help. Here are some things you can do if you're in this space. Right away, you're building trust with them. They believe in your mission. And then you've given them something to think about. So you're top of mind because they're like, man, this Amy lady got it right. She got it
It's
right.
like she's in my head, right?
In my head. And you've taken the experience that you've had. This is your experience. So this is your 25 years of information, as you said. So this is not, we didn't come in and say, these are the questions. We spent time with you, right? So in working with an agency, working with a digital expert, they need to spend time with you, understanding your business, understanding the things you know, because that's what led everything. And you were able to hone in all that information now into a place where people are like, when I get in here, I feel like you know me. She's in my head. And sometimes you're asleep while that's happening. When sometimes they take the quiz, because now the quiz is, that's your entry point, right? If they don't want to take the quiz, it's okay. It means that they're not ready to even start to be in your world yet. But if they take the quiz, they're saying to you, I want to be a part of your world, and this is where I want to hang out. And there's an opportunity for me to get to know you a little bit more and then do business with you. So you're actually community building. So you're really building the community because they're like, they feel, because in a community, how do you feel? You feel like you belong. So once you've put them into their right, into that category where they feel like, man, I am the hustler, I am the serial entrepreneur, I am the fearless fundraiser. And look at the powerful segments that you've created. Look at the names of them. Even that gets to be fun, right? You get to think through these, and you live that now. You're like, these are my people, and here's how I move them through my customer journey and through my funnel, but it feels good to them. It doesn't feel like she's got me on automatic. It doesn't feel like she's got me on automatic because you also show up now within the resources. You might show up on a video. You might explain something to them. So they're always connecting with you. Think about how many people say to you now, I see you all the time everywhere. And sometimes you're at home sleeping.
That is branding. That is branding. And I think nonprofits are so traumatized not to even think about overhead or to understand how the private sector works that we don't realize that these are essential investments to be making in growing your footprint and getting more people engaged. I'll be honest, for me, it was probably 2015 before I really started taking digital engagement at all seriously. And it was through a client's mission. It wasn't through marketing. I was working with a great group, stackup.org. They do amazing work out of LA working with veterans through video gaming. And when he would explain to me the mission and the impact that he was having in saving lives, preventing suicide, through video gaming, through Twitch, through Discord, I was like, but where are the drum circles? I don't understand the yoga, the what. And he'd say, you know what? These guys don't give a crap about climbing a mountain or going on a bike ride. They are resting, they're recovering, they're doing the best they can, and they need help where they're at, which sometimes is gaming. So it just amazed me when I could see the feedback of, you saved my life. It was midnight. I had nobody to talk to, but this community, you guys, saw me. I felt seen, I felt heard all through video gaming. So Listen, I learned quickly. I might not get this. This might not be my thing, but I would be an idiot not to say there's something really important here. So it's been a
Absolutely.
journey for me. Let me ask you this, Tamara. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What makes me a great client of yours, and what makes me a little bit of a, let's say, challenging client for you? If there is anything, there might not be.
That.
Just
So what makes you a good client is that you have content. So you have so much content. You're what I like to call content rich, and you create great content, and you really have a solid business model, and people really like you. You know what I'm saying? I really like you. So that makes you a great client. What makes you a little bit not so great? Sometimes the new thing is like, okay, let me get it. And I see when you need the dots to connect. So when the dots don't connect, there's a moment where we kind of go through a little bit of friction, right? When the dots don't connect. So in my mind, I see, she needs the dots to connect. Sometimes I could be a bit aggressive with connecting the dots, but I realize now I'm like, okay, she's going to connect the dots in maybe 2 weeks. Let me pull back and keep reassuring her. And then when the light comes on for you, it's like guns a blazing, right? So it's like, okay, cool. Just I'm gonna give her 2 weeks because you will see one thing that connects it for you, right? And then so that always makes me question the team when the dots don't connect. I'm like, okay, where are we lacking to make sure? And it's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's just this moment of getting the dots to connect for you. And as soon as because it happens with every client, because what we're saying sometimes is your baby's just a little bit ugly and we're going to tweak it this way. And you're like, but I've been doing it this way for so long, right? And that's how a lot of people feel. And I get that, right? We're doing digital marketing for so long. I am constantly looking at my brand and reassessing it. And I love the aesthetic of it. I love the things of it. But sometimes I'm like, is that functional? Did I get hung up in those spaces? And my team has to pull me out of it because we're very committed to the work that we're doing. But I see that with a lot of clients. But once the light shines and it comes on and you start seeing the value of some of those exercises and you see the big picture, that's what I love about you too, is once you see the big picture, you're like, and then you start saying, then you start preaching to the choir, you become the advocate, you now, how much time have you freed up, right? How much time have you freed up just not having to worry about, oh, let me send them something because I didn't do something. Now we're focused on, okay, where do we put the things that are relevant? What are things that you may have outgrown in your digital presence that you need to shift to? How are people who are looking for your solution but don't know Amy, how are they finding you? Because there are folks out there who need your help who are searching sometimes at night. So how do we get you that visibility that we all talk about? We hear a lot of buzzwords in digital, right? So we hear, social selling, visibility, brand awareness. But I think sometimes we don't know what that really means, right? That's really about bringing in the right people who are going to actually work with you and do the things that you want them to do, right? But they want to be there. You're not forcing them. So that visibility is about being in that space with them and connecting with them and more of those people seeing you. So you should always be thinking, okay, if you're doing in-person events, as a fundraiser, you're probably thinking, how many people did I talk to this week? You're like, okay, I spoke to 10 people. That means more money. Okay, man, I only spoke to 5 people this week. So you're already doing the numbers. Just think about how digital can get you into that space where you're like, man, actually, I started off speaking to 1,000 people, but then it narrowed down to 500, but then it went down to the right 50 people and they all donated because those were the relevant people. Started off broad, but we kind of got into the heart of the people that you wanted to get to, and that's your niche. And all these people found you online because you were visible in the right space when they were doing the thing that we all do so well, searching. We're always searching.
Around the binging. I mean, it is absolutely how people are gonna be able to make that determination. You and I really connected on something we share in common, which is this notion of creating movements of support, right? This community engagement is the foundation, and I love that I felt seen and heard when you embrace this. We say take it to the digital streets.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about where I learned a lot about this is door knocking, right?
Mhm.
Raising money, knocking doors, and how you ultimately learn to move through those numbers by quickly discerning the
Right.
likelihood of the person A, caring, and B, taking an action
Right.
and moving forward. What I love about adding the digital component to that notion, I love the face to face. I love the face to face. I feel like people think you're terrible. You don't like face to face. I love people. I really do. But I also don't like burnout.
Right.
So, you know, I got to make some hard choices. And when you have those contacts at the doors and you're moving through 100 doors a night, to find three people, you see it in a very raw sense that to scale that would mean a lot more doors, and
Right.
that's not sustainable. So using your digital voice to, once you meet somebody, then to take them into your database so
Mhm.
they get their welcome emails.
Mhm.
Then they get connected with you on your social media platforms to
Mhm.
continue to hear your message.
Mhm.
Um, you know, that feels the difference to me of throwing social media posts out into the universe to God knows where, to creating a little safe bubble of Amy Fazio world where folks can come on in, hang out, learn a few things, meet some people, decide to stay or move on.
Right.
Right? That feels good to me. That feels like community to me.
Right, and it is community, right? Because community has shifted. I think so many people think about community and they think about it in a place, a place that they grew up, a place that they go to, a community center. But we've had to build these digital communities, hence the reason things like Discord and Twitch and all these
Mhm,
spaces are working, right? Poshmark, they're all different types of communities. So we
mhm.
already and most of your non-for-profit leaders are already hanging out in somebody's digital community, right? So that's the crazy thing. They're hanging out in someone's digital community, whether it's Poshmark, whether it's wherever it is. Think about what digital community you're a part of, and then why don't you have a community? So if you're a part of a community, why does your non-for-profit not have a community? Now, that community doesn't have to look, it could be what you need it to be. That's where we really kind of take your content and we say, how do we customize this for you? Because it may not be what I do a show on a weekly basis, twice a week. We do a show called Your Business in Digital, where we talk to businesses about really how to take their business to digital, because again, it can be a little complicated, but that's how I'm building community. But we sit down and we think about, what is the community for you? Is it a blog that leads them to a video, that leads them to a PDF? We can help you frame up the digital community that's right for you. It's not a one size fits all. And I know a lot of companies have been burned with marketing the one size fit all package, right?
Mm.
That's not what it is. Everyone has their own formula. Everyone has their own type of community. Where will you excel? What makes sense? Frequency, all those things matter. So we have to take all those things into consideration to really say, this is the right type of digital community, and you have to be at the heart of it. None of the digital can be done without the business, right? If a marketing agency ever comes to you and says, hey, I'm just going to take it and get it done for you, that's a problem, because you're lost in the conversation. And one of the things that I also loved when working with you was the importance of your voice. So no matter if we helped write something, your voice had to be there. We could be the AI for you, but you jumped in there and you're like, da, 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 da. This is my sound, this is my voice, this is my brand. So it's important for you to be a part of the conversation. The implementation of the community, the getting it up and running, is where the heavy lifting is. But we do that heavy lifting for you, but then we help you and we listen to you and we take in all that information and make sure it's the right community. So then you can then start sustaining the community as you move forward, right? So it's all about stepping away from, yes, I don't understand it, it sounds complicated, to understanding, what do I do really well, and how can I take this and implement this in digital? Because most of the times we're taking what you're doing offline really, really well and translating that into digital.
And that's important, is you're taking what you're doing in person at those meetings, and if it's to be of integrity and authentic, it is
Mhm.
taking those exact experiences and translating them online. And so for folks who are concerned or raise concerns with me, it just doesn't feel natural or organic. That just means you're not experienced with it.
Right.
Like, it doesn't, you can't make the assumption, if that's true, that it's wrong. You have to look at possibly, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for the next 6 months, but if I don't start now, it's going to be uncomfortable 6 years from now.
It is, and it's going to be crazy uncomfortable because as things change, so just some of the things that are shifting, right? So we talk about Gmail, for instance. You can get verified in Gmail now if you use Google Workspace, but you also have to have your trademark for your business. If you have that, it's easy for you to get verified there. So there's those things that are happening. There's the changing of search, really search moving into this place where it's more consultative. It's more, if someone finds searches for you, they should be getting information, maybe an answer to a frequently asked question, right? So things are shifting so much. So 6 years from now, if you're not doing anything right now, 6 years from now, you won't be ready and you would have lost the opportunity to measure, to understand. On a weekly basis, 100 people come to my website. When they come to my website, they take this action. X amount of percent of them transition into my email database. Then these many people sign up to do business with me. It's simply your knocking doors strategy. When you first said that to me and you said 103 people, 3%, I was just like, you get digital. That was it. It was simply the measurement, right? It was, once I heard that, I knew, I'm like, we could have a conversation and I can simplify. Once you simplified it, I was just like, yeah, think about that in digital. And I was just like, yeah, that makes total sense, but you get to talk to more people, but you understood those metrics. So there's nothing that we're bringing the digital to the table for you and just saying, let's talk about content distribution, get that content, this great content in front of more people so they can hear your message. Let's talk about where the places are, where they hanging out, right? And starting to get that content in those places.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because if nothing else, I was so excited to have you on because I want people to feel empowered in this and that it's exciting, that it's not going to drown out your voice or make you vanilla. It's going to push you to show up in Technicolor. Your message has to be on point. Your conviction, kind of boiling it down and cutting through cutting through busy work in every sense of the word, either delivering the message or even a convoluted message. When you talk about companies that might come in and provide frequency of messaging that isn't customized to you and your audience, I think about that a lot because sometimes people are like, "Oh, we've got a great social media game," and I'll go look, and it looks nice. I mean, they do have nice graphics. They do.
It's beautiful.
But it's like, we got a story hour at 11. We've got Give Us Money at 12. We've got the library tour. We've got the downtown. It's really about them.
Yeah, 100%, right? And so when we talk about your social media, the first thing we talked about was, what are your greatest hits? What are your greatest hits? Because your greatest hits tie back to your strategy, ties back to what you're doing offline. So your social media presence should be your greatest hits. It's that authentic voice. So we can present for you the branded piece, which is important. You must get the mission pieces out, but that authentic self comes from what you do really well. And so that's where social media is, right? Social media is about, where am I social? How am I engaging on the right platforms for my business? So that's another thing too. We think that we need to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Do we really need to be everywhere? If a social media platform is not driving you revenue, absolutely you can post on it, but understand the importance of finding that place where you're getting the revenue, you're getting to talk to your donors. And a lot of times we spend time in this platform that we like the most. Doesn't matter to our business, right? We spend time in the place that we like the most. And now we have to shift that. Where's the place that people are showing up? Where's the place that moves my business forward, not the place that I like the most? You can spend time there, but it's on the off time, right?
That's right. That's right. Because you're in the mind of your potential donor. You're not in your own mind. What do you think are some, let's get a little more specific here. I love how you built out the funnel, understanding how things like a quiz or an FAQ can lead to the website, can lead to the email or to social media. What would you say, in a general sense, are some key initial steps or key things to look at when assessing your digital community building or deciding, gosh, who do I need to help me take things to the next level? What are some things you look at or often suggest to people?
So first of all, start by number one, the people, someone has donated to you already. understand who they are, right? And you work with folks to get them to their target audience, to their ideal customer through that customer journey. Really take that and look for that person. And are they in every space that your online presence is? Are they on your Instagram if you're on Instagram? Are they on your LinkedIn if you have LinkedIn? What we find many times is that the people sometimes on our LinkedIn are people that we've worked with in the past that may not be our audience. We're actually going through that exercise right now. Our personal brand, I just signed up for a sales navigator, right? Everyone on most of the people on my LinkedIn are people that I worked with in the past. So I now understand that I'm not talking to my target audience when I post on LinkedIn. Now we do a show called Your Business in Digital. That is naturally building into small business owners, folks that are looking for that message. So that's what we're doing. But I'm looking at my personal profile to say, okay, I need to start shifting the people that I'm connected with and start connecting with people that are decision makers in non-for-profits and small businesses, in those that target audience that I have. So that's something that's important. Is the person who's working with me, is where are the rest of Amy's in the world, right? How do I find them? Because I know you're an ideal client for us. So how do I find more of you and start talking to you on my page, right? Simply talking to you, engaging, building a relationship. Because again, we want to get to that 3 month. Hey, how you doing? Yay! I like what you have on. Do you want some coffee?
Earlier, you're not
Right.
meeting, going on a date, and getting married all in the same session, right?
You're not,
No,
right? You're easing
not one.
into it. You're building the relationship. You're slowing into it. So how do I start? By simply making that shift. Now that's going to take a little bit of time, is a little bit of effort. So how do I put that into a system where I'm saying, okay, cool. So I am bringing in 10 new people, just like that we talked about. I'm talking to 10 new people on a weekly basis. And I want to bring in 10 new people onto my profile on a weekly basis that fit my target audience. You want to go over to Instagram, look at that ideal customer, look at that ideal persona, and say, are these people in my Instagram? So that's where you want to start first. Are the people that I'm talking to even my target audience? Or am I just talking to, sometimes when we start our profiles, it's the friends, it's the family, it's everyone we meet, but it's maybe not our donors. It's maybe not the people who we're going to do business with. So understanding that and starting to shift that audience is really step number one, because you understand every place that my online presence is, I'm talking to my target audience. And then the other thing you want to look at is, where are your call to actions and what are they? And how many of them do you have, right? We hear CTAs all the time, another buzzword. CTA have a call to action. So how many call to actions do you need to achieve your business goals? Probably about 2 or 3, maximum 3, right? Donate is going to be one of them.
Okay, let's pause here for a
Yeah.
second. 2 to 3 calls to action, right? In the nonprofit world, you remember we like to call it the ask. We use that term sometimes instead of call to action. And here's my concern with that is I know a lot of nonprofit leaders who think call to action means ask for money. And that is not being very authentic. These are the same people who tell me that I got to do everything face to face because I care about the relationship, but the only
Right.
thing they're asking for is money.
Right.
So,
Right.
what do you mean by 2 to 3 calls to action? Like you said, one is donations. Talk more
Yeah.
about that.
So that's the final ask, right? But how do I ease them in if I'm building a relationship? Is my first call to action, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes.
Because now I've positioned it as, I want to know more about you. And it's, we as human beings are in this, what's in it for me. So is one call to action, tell me a little bit more about yourself. You know what I mean? And you learn a little bit more about them. You don't need to ask them for their social security number. You don't need to ask them 99 questions, but something like a quiz, right? Just like we did with you. You're saying to these folks who are coming in, tell me a little bit about yourself. And then
Yeah.
after that, you start telling them a little bit of, so that's the first call to action. Get to know if this is the right person for you. Is this the right donor for you? And then you also get to take that information and use that information to support the conversation with them, because they told you a little bit about themselves. Then after that, you want to say you made it about them. Then your next call to action is, learn more about why this mission is amazing, or learn more about my movement, because you've asked them about themselves and now they're like, wow, they're really empathetic. They're thinking about me and I want to learn a little bit more about this, and give them the information so they can learn a little bit more. Right. And then And then you can
Yeah.
tell them also how they can, then you start to get to the donate, you start telling them how they can help.
Yeah.
And then over time, as you see, every action, everything you send out should have a customer reaction. As you get the reactions, right? Oh, they opened the email. Oh, they clicked on the link. Those are the reactions that you're looking for. They're like, because they're engaging. Those people
Yeah.
that continue to move forward are eventually ready for you to ask for the donation. But you have to see, are they going through and doing the things I want them to do? Are they telling me about themselves? Where's that conversation happening?
Yes, just yes, yes, yes. The reason you're not comfortable asking for money is because you don't have the information you need to be confident in asking for money.
Absolutely.
You're probably asking too soon if it's uncomfortable. That certainly
Yeah,
could be one of the reasons. Um,
absolutely.
so let me just recap for a second because I think these steps you're building out really make a lot of sense. And I want to make sure I've got them clear in my own mind.
Yeah.
But the first step of focusing on the people already in your world,
Mhm.
I can't agree with this one more. I
Yeah.
can make more money in the first 2 years of working with somebody, 6 months to 2 years, without even thinking about growing your audience. That,
Yeah.
not to say you're not growing your audience, but
Right.
the renegotiation, the inner game and the outer game, there's a lot of low hanging fruit there. I promise. So I really like that you're assessing that first
Of
because
course. Most
in
important.
community, that's important. Yeah. The second, you talk about really thinking about what does digital world mean for you? What are
Mhm.
those platforms? What are those mechanisms you're getting the word out? It's
Mhm.
not the same for everybody. Really important message, I think. And then third, you mentioned taking the time then once you decide looking at your profiles and understanding kind of what your brand message is presenting as, and is it in fact targeting the right donor, the right person, your people. And then finally, you mentioned calls to action, thinking about 2 or 3 calls to action, including one that is asking for money. But one, tell me more about yourself. 2, learn more about the mission. 3, get involved, donate, volunteer, show up. The,
Exactly. Yeah.
how did I do?
You did
Yeah.
really good. You did really, really well. And just a quick example, right? I was talking to, I do some volunteer work with a youth business organization of Trinidad and Tobago. So I was talking to one of the entrepreneurs I was working with the other day, and we're going through this process, and so she'd been posting, and she'd just been posting to posts, right? So we talked about what she'd been posting, and we talked about her. She was very concerned about her price points and keeping them to this place where this, because she didn't want to upset her customers' apple cart, and she was just really all in her head about things, right? So I was like, all right, start looking at the people who bought from you consistently for the last year. Take 10 of them and just go through their profiles, all right? Spend time going through their profiles. Go to their Instagram. If they follow you, just check out what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. By the time we met the second time around, she's just like, oh my goodness, they're doing all these things. They're hanging out. She's like, they can afford my product. And she was like, and on top of that, I sent out an email and I made money. She made money because she recognized that these are the right people. These people may not be the right people. And I was assuming a lot of things. And
Yes.
sometimes it just takes, 5 or 10 minutes to kind of go through and look to be like, this is my ideal person. Are these people showing up in these places? And if they're not, get rid of them, right? And if you can't do that, if you think, hey, that's a lot, that's where when you bring in an agency, the first thing they should be doing with you is an assessment. They should be assessing your online presence. If they assess your online presence, then they're telling you, here's where you currently are right now, or here's the space that you're in, and this is how we can build and grow. They can't just start marketing for you if they don't know where you are, right? Because where are you going to grow to? So those baseline numbers become really important as you're trying to get to that space of visibility. And that ideal customer, that ideal donor, that is the information that is the most valuable, because you want more of those people coming through the door. So if you can line up that ideal donor with the people that you're starting to even talk to at the top, right? If those are the people that you're showing up to all the time, then my ideal donor, I'm talking to them from the very beginning. More of them will move through your customer journey to that point of donation.
Yeah, guys, so much gold in this conversation. I so appreciate the back and forth. I'll say that's why I recommend when you're looking at putting your board of directors together to always include people outside of your industry, one or two people, because they're usually the ones that are challenging the assumptions in the group, because we
Yeah.
can get into that. I just always thought this should be the message, or this is how this should work. So I think that's really important. I want to remind everybody that we're talking about the digital game, and so many times we make the assumption that's focused only on individual donors, that is no way to get government money or government funding, or corporate donors clearly have to be harder or through relationships or introductions. And I want to go back to what you said at the very beginning of this call, which is we are a binge state of consumption. That is the state of consumption humans are in right now.
Mhm.
Do Government money still moves by individuals signing papers and authorizing it. It's still individuals making that money move. Even if it comes in the form of a grant or an application, I like money that doesn't personally, but even if it does, these are still individuals and people can be influenced, period. So, should part of their process be going to your LinkedIn page to see what they can find, you better be ready for scrolling messaging that supports the proposal you just put in. And that goes to your talking points, the things that are important to you. So this is not just major donors or individual donors. This is relevant for corporate, for foundations, for civic groups. And it's who you are. And displaying it online with a digital first approach is your responsibility as a leader. It's not whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's the right thing to do. Your community, your donors are counting on you to lead the way in this next phase of community engagement. And so we have a responsibility to learn the skills we don't yet have and to prevent the burnout. Tamara, I'm going to speak for both of us on this one. We want you to find a partner in this that can help you feel safe and comfortable, but push you. Push you, because this is the path to bring in more money with less stress.
One ditto.
You're
Ditto.
yes, yes,
Exactly what you said. And here's the interesting thing, right? You can, yeah, and I love that you do this show because what you're doing with this show right now, we're now taking and we're putting it on a podcast. We're putting it on YouTube. We found the right keywords. So we're really distributing this content so that more people can connect with it and the content lives on and on and on. As we move to Web3, right? I'm not trying to scare anyone, but we're in Web2. We're in AI. I mean, everyone's heard about ChatGPT, I'm sure. Everyone's freaking out about AI. But just think about where we are in Web2. And as we move to Web3, people are going to want to personalize content, right? So how are you showing up online? They get to choose what they want to see even more. They get to make more decisions. It gets to the heart of the person. It will get to the heart of the individual donor as well. And just like you talked about, that government agency, it's people. So if they're doing the research, it's something that you want to make sure that they can also find your information. So your online presence does the work for you. It is an employee. It is not something that's just there. It's not an online magazine that's just really beautiful. It's doing work for you. So it's important that you have it. And we're in the digital age, right? That's really what it is. If you do not have a strong online presence to support your brand, it's definitely going to be difficult.
yeah. And Tamara, you are available for folks to help them understand where in their journey they are, because again, everybody's different. This isn't to overwhelm you, but it is to invite you to figure out what your next move in is building out. And I'll say you've done a great job helping me say, quarter one, let's think about these things. Let's build out the email communication. Let's build out the messaging and the website so folks know where to come in. Let's think about the application process so people can decide if working with you is a good option. Let's get the podcast going and the quiz. And we've broken it up into steps. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming, but you need a roadmap. You need a digital community building roadmap. How can they stay in touch with you? How can our listeners stay in touch with you to learn more about digital community building and what it's like working with you?
Absolutely. I love that question. So you can definitely connect with us on our YouTube channel. We do a show called Your Business in Digital, where we talk to businesses, we talk to non-for-profits about really how to really function in the digital space, what you should know, especially if you're thinking about working with an agency. Amy was on our show the other day and it was awesome. What I'm also going to provide is for all the special folks in this in Amy's world, you can absolutely, Amy will drop a link where you can book a 25-minute consultation with me and we can talk through some of those things, right? I get it. Digital can be daunting, but the reality of the situation is if you're thinking about really scaling your business, if you want to move from that hustler phase to that point where you're like, hey, I am actually able to run this business and not focus on all these little things, digital is where you really need to be, and you need to have a strong online presence. It will bode well for you. And what you'll start seeing is that, we always hear that story of like, oh my God, I got this $10,000 donation. I don't know how it happened, right? You kind of hear that all the time out of nowhere. And it wasn't really out of nowhere. It seemed like it was out of nowhere because you don't know how they got to you. But a lot of these people are searching, right? As your target market changes and shifts, a lot of them are digital. So if your business isn't in that space, then it's really lost opportunity. So book some time with me. There's a 25-minute consultation for all of your people that are interested in talking, and we can really talk through where you are, some of your concerns. And this is something you should be talking to your board about, saying, hey, we need to get the right digital presence. And this is something that really should be rolled into, whether it's your admin fees or whatever the case may be, whatever the working part of your business is, it should be rolled into that because it's important for you to grow. 6 years from now, it's going to be too late. Digital is going to shift so much, and you want the data points. That's what you want. You want the data. The data is going to help you make some more decisions, and you start understanding the content that's relevant, all the things that you have to do that seem really daunting. You break it down into, this is my talk track. This is the content I produce. So we're not asking you to step outside of what you're doing. We are asking you to step outside of your comfort zone to get to that digital first approach. But it's a lot of what you're already doing. And once you see that marriage, right, you'll kind of be like, man, this is comfortable. And we ease you into it, right? I'm not asking you to sign a contract with me when we talk to you. I'm simply asking you to tell me a little bit more about yourself, and I'll tell you a little bit more about me, and we'll ease you through the process.
Yeah, to give you some great insight. Highly recommend spending as much time with Tamara as possible. Thank you so much for joining us, inspiring us through what can be a very daunting process, digital
Yeah.
community engagement.
Absolutely. This was, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's always a pleasure to talk to your people. I think what you guys are doing is so important in the world. And if we did not have people running non-for-profits and helping people, all the causes, I don't know where we would be. So my experience in a non-for-profit really makes there's a special place in my heart for you guys. So definitely book some time with me, and I will, I think in non-for-profit.
Her mind is an amazing place. Always time well spent. Always. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your gifts with us. And I want to remind everybody, while changing the world is hard, fundraising doesn't have to be. Until next time, enjoy your day. Thank you.